Jim, herbicides, we should be looking at those now with a bit of spring around.
Well, actually, there's a bit of bud movement out there in the various horticultural crops. So what I really would like to say to growers today, Rob, is that if we're going to put some of those residual herbicides on, now is the time to do it. Ground conditions, as I understand, are a little dry, but that'll still be okay. There's sufficient moisture then for them to work properly, adhere to the soil and stay there, and do their job through the spring and early summer. But if you leave it too late, you'll start to get uptake of the plants and trees actually taking it up. So it's now to get it in while it's still quite dormant, but movement is very, very close. It's not that far away at all.
So it's a really tight time factor.
Yeah, it is. I'd say we're mid-August now, so by the first week of September, you really, about the end of the first week of September, you should have these herbicides definitely on by then.
Yeah, okay. Now, you've been out of town.
I've been out of town, Rob, yeah.
Where'd you go?
Well, we went around Mediterranean and some of the countries there, and went inland around Italy and saw some vineyards, funnily enough. And,
Well, it would have been out of character not to.
It would have been out of character, yeah. No, it was good actually. The country's looking pretty good over there. They've had a very hot summer, and especially as you get further east in Europe, and that has affected quite a number of the crops. Soft fruits and that are back. So strawberries, raspberries, those sort of things are back. And then as you go further west into Europe and go into UK, they've actually had a wonderful, very similar summer to what we had last year in New Zealand. And therefore the fruit crops are behaving the same way. Slightly low in bricks, slow coming in, but good quality. And the growers have got good tonnage. So in general, across whether it be apples or black currants or even cereal. I was actually talking to a cereal grower, and so I happened to be in a hotel, but talking to a cereal grower, and they're having some really good bumper crops this year. Unfortunately, the prices aren't that flash. And
really?
That's just, yeah, grain prices in the UK are down quite a bit. He was talking down by £60, and I don't know what level he was really meaning they were at, but he said the tonnages were there, so they were balancing off a little bit.
I mean, our mate Dennis Carter was saying a couple of weeks, or last week, that if you did your whole farm in barley, because of the compliance costs, now you wouldn't make any money, you'd go broke.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think we're sort of in the same sort of light.
Really interesting. But getting up to Scotland, where they've got a lot of soft fruit being grown there, strawberries especially, they're going very well. I was speaking to a couple of growers up there, and the reason being that the Eastern European fruit that would normally come into UK and into France, say Holland, isn't coming in because of the dry. So Britain's actually going the other way and sending some over the channel, and also obviously their own market's strong. So they were actually enjoying some good prices with their strawberries fresh market. So and they were in about the middle of the crop at that stage. They'll go right through to just about into the second week of October with harvesting, but they were very pleased the way that was going. So that was good to
What's
hear.
happening with Russia? Are there still serious embargoes and things?
Oh, absolutely, and getting greater. I mean, Mr. Putin's not changing; he's getting hardened, which is unbelievable, really. I mean, he is really quite happy to see his people starve if necessary to make the point that he wants to make, and it has really impacted on a lot of fruit and vegetables in Europe. Still of oversupply now because they're not rolling off into the Far East and into Russia countries, Belarus and places like that.
So that means, of course, obviously, I mean, that means the price comes down if there's a lot of it.
Yeah. I just happened to be speaking to a dairy farmer, a Scottish dairy farmer, third-generation dairy farmer.
In a pub, of course.
No, actually it wasn't actually, but and he was saying, their dairy industry is very similar to ours, and it's got some of the bigger growers have come in and they're quite dominant and all that sort of thing. He's got a 500 herd, where there's several thousand. Yeah.
500? Has he got names for them all?
Yeah, probably has. But I mean, that's a traditional family farming. But he said that what's going on in the dairy industry, in his opinion, is that it's going to go on for quite a long time yet. So I hope that's not the case. I mean, all industries, when it comes to agriculture, have their cycles, have their times. And I'm sure Brent was going to tell you about where the grape industry is. And may I say that having a look at the prices of New Zealand wines in the British shops, that some of the ones I've been going to on an annual basis, just to do the surveys, fortunately the New Zealand wine is now holding back into the position it was pre-2009. which is really, really good to see. So I hope that floats back to the growers back here in New Zealand, because they need to be rewarded for quality wines that they produce.
It's interesting, Jim, that you're suggesting that this dairy thing isn't just New Zealand, it is worldwide.
It's certainly global. I mean, although I didn't go to Ireland, I spoke to an Irish colleague of mine who said the same thing. He said the dairy industry, and it's very similar, the dairy industry in Ireland is very similar to New Zealand in terms of size. And those guys, and in terms of where we're at of recent, say the last 5 to 10 years, growth in the dairy industry in Ireland, it's very similar to here, and it's very much reliant on, and they're in trouble too.
So it's a growth thing, it's just a case of that supply and demand again?
Yeah, it is, supply and demand, and unfortunately the milk powder production has gone down a bit, so there's a lot of liquid milk sloshing around in Europe. I mean, it's just going for nothing. It's very, very cheap.
So did you have a look at cheese prices over there?
No, I didn't, to be honest, Rob, but I would imagine it would be reflected in
it has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. One of the things we did come out while we were over there was the effect of sugars and fruits and juices and all those sort of things that are made up of, from horticultural crops especially, on obesity. And there was no doubt, and I can't speak myself, but there was no doubt that having a look around the world, as I have done in the last 5 weeks, the world has become more obese. There's no doubt, and there's this political football that's going on about sugar, and some of it should happen, without any doubt about that, because unfortunately we see young children that are terribly obese and still drinking Coca-Cola or whatever it may be. And that's mum and dad's problem. It's not the child's fault.
No, and fever the black currant.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the healthy drinks globally at the moment, they're down 3% in sales, and the trend is that they will continue to trend down, where the energy drinks, the ones that are full of the caffeine and sugar, are going the other way. So the world's a bit topsy-turvy, isn't it?
It is, Jim. It is. Thank you very much indeed.